to put your hand over your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
And now over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth.
Now, if you just put your hand over your heart and extend out your arms, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that there is nothing to heal, only more God to be revealed. Just like the song said, God will work it out. Nothing to heal, only more God to be revealed. So if it looks like you have a little sickness going on in your finances, the first thing we do is to look within, to the presence of God that is within us. We look within and we say, God is abundance, I am abundance. Now, we're not metaphysical bubbleheads here. We know that if your finances are having some trouble, what you might need to do is to put yourself on a budget and get clear about your finances. But after you do that work on the outer, return to the inner. For there's nothing to heal, only more God to be revealed, only more abundance to be revealed. Maybe you have something going on in your relationship that feels that it's not doing too well. It's got some sickness in your relationship. Nothing to heal, only more God to be revealed. So our job is not to work at the level of effect and try and fix our partner and try and all their little irksome stuff, get that all worked out. I know, it's tempting, I know. Not us, baby, but those people out there. They have that going on, I know. So here's the thing. The idea is not to try and fix them. The idea is to pour more love out there. Pour love on them. You know, I've told the story before of the African tribe. When a teenager does something wrong, when they act out, they don't berate the teenager. They don't take away privileges. I doubt cell phones are involved, but they don't do any of that. What they do is they bring the teenager into a circle and they just pour love on them. They just pour love and keep pouring love and keep pouring love. Nothing to heal, only more God to be revealed. See, if we have a little sickness going on with our job right now, we don't really care for our job, our work is to stay out of effect and to show up as love and success in our job. It's not to, oh, that boss of mine. It's not to get into, oh, you know, there's so few of us and there's just more and more work and they keep laying people off and we all have to get out of that. Nothing to heal. Only more God to be revealed. Only more love to be revealed in every single situation. See, we have to stop working at the level of effect and begin to work at the level of cause. The level of cause is up here. It's not out there. So today we're going to, and if we could live today's principle, if we could just say every time we're cranky, every time we're mad, every time we feel betrayed, every time we feel victimized by anything, if we could say nothing to heal here, only more God to be revealed. And we use all of God's street names. Nothing to heal here, only more compassion to be revealed. Nothing to heal here, only more abundance to be revealed. Nothing to heal here, only more understanding to be revealed. If we could do that, we would change the world. And certainly we'd change our world. Well, we're on a series on how to do some of this changing, and it's a book by John Randolph Price. And many of you are familiar with this book. It's called The Abundance Book, and he works on 10 principles. Now, here's the thing. These 10 principles could make all of us abundant in this room. All of us. But you can't just read the book. You can't just come here and hear me talk about the book. You have to study the book. You have to do what the book says. Not some of the time, but all of the time. So we're going to, last week, well, let me just say, remember here, first of all, we're not limiting ourselves to more money in our lives. Some of you in this room have as much money as you want, and you don't think it's fitting to use spiritual principles to get more money. And we're okay with that. We're good with that. We're not going to force any more money on you than you want. We're happy with that. But maybe what you want is more creativity in your life. Maybe what you want is, more friends in your life. Maybe what you want is more passion in your life. Whatever it is that you want in your life. Personally, I want all of it. I want all of it. And I'm willing to do the discipline to get it. I'm willing to train my mind. Do you know why you really come to a Science of Mind church? You come to your Science of Mind church to retrain your mind to understanding that you live in an unlimited universe and that the power that is needed to activate that unlimited universe is within you. That's the only reason that you come. And the music too is good, but the reason you come is to find that out. So, I heard Jill Meese sent me a TED Talk. I'm a big TED Talk lover. And so I listened to this TED Talk, and the title of the TED Talk, you can Google it, and I encourage you to do it. It's called, Can Money Buy You Happiness? It's 15 minutes, well spent 15 minutes. The answer, after some significant university-based research, is yes, money can buy you happiness. Isn't that interesting? And he says what they did was they gave money to two control groups. The first control group was they gave them money and they said, spend this only on yourself. And they tested their happiness level. I don't know how they did it, but they tested their happiness level. Then they gave them this money and they said, spend it only on yourself. And then the second control group, they gave them money and they said, spend this money on other people as well as yourself. And they retested them afterwards. The people who spent the money only on themselves, who glorified only themselves, their happiness quotient went down. The people who spent their money on themselves and other people, their happiness quotient went way up. Money can buy you happiness. But we have to share it. We have to share it when we get it. And this church is such a great example of sharing your money. Thanks to your gifts and your tithes, I want to tell you that during the week, we serve as one of the Yolo County, and maybe the only Yolo County sites where families who are fractured can come together with supervised visits of children. You did that. You created this event, this place, where we could house that so that people could be together in a safe way. Well, we went to principle 1 and 2. He's got 10 principles. We did 1 and 2 last week. This week, we're going to principle number 3. I am conscious of the inner presence as my lavish abundance. I am conscious of the constant activity of this mind of infinite prosperity. Therefore, my consciousness is filled with the light and the truth. See? I am conscious of my abundance. I am conscious. I am conscious. I am conscious. That's the key. See, the key to improving whatever it is that you want more of is simply consciousness. I am conscious of my lavish abundance. I'm awake and aware. I see where my good is coming, and I'm thankful for it. I'm conscious of it. I'm doing the things that people who are consciousness do. I give gratitude for it. I'm also conscious when I'm in lack. See? I'm conscious of my abundance, and I'm also conscious when I'm not feeling abundant, and it's just as important. It's all part of the consciousness piece. Because when we get into lack, if we'd stop blaming other people for our lack, stop getting out there and stay in here and in here, we would improve it immediately in our lives. Now, Ernest Holmes, when he wants to really get in your face, what he will say is poverty, loneliness, fear, debt, insecurity is caused by a consciousness of lack. Let me say that again, because it's hard to hear. Poverty, loneliness, fear, doubt, insecurity is caused by a consciousness of lack. Now look, Nobody comes to church to feel bad about themselves. And if you're in the moment thinking, look, I'm struggling right now with money. I don't have enough money. Or I'm struggling in my relationship right now. There's no harmony in my relationship right now. If any of those things are going on and you're starting to do what I do when I hear this, which is beat myself up. Oh, I'm causing this. I'm doing this to myself. Let it go. Let it go. Guilt and shame and anger will not get you anywhere. In fact, it will push you back from where you want to be. You have to let all of that, oh, I'm bad, go. Oh, I caused this, go. What we want to do is say, what if this were true? If this is true, that poverty and loneliness and debt and fear and insecurity is caused by my consciousness of lack, where is it? Where is it showing up in my life, and what can I do about it? See, the brilliant thing about Ernest Holmes is he said, you don't even have to figure out what you're thinking, what your thoughts are that are limiting you. You don't even have to figure out, you don't have to identify where your lack thoughts are coming from. You just have to identify they're there, and you do that by looking at your life. Oh, I'm a little lonely. Oh, I don't have enough money to make ends meet. And then, without going back and worrying where it started or who put that goofy idea in your head, you start right here, right now, and you move forward with ideas of abundance. I am conscious of my inner presence as abundance in my life. See, conscious people who own a consciousness of abundance, they stay with big picture stuff. They stay with the big picture that God is abundant. People who are unconscious are hooked into their memories. They're owned, actually, by their memories. Those memories that come from their own family members or friends, and those memories that come from the global mind that we're just attached to. Now, there are people in this room who knew people or who'd heard stories of people who are in the Depression. And because of those stories, and we're attached to those memories of those stories, we begin to hoard our money. We begin to not feel free with the flow. Now, that'll take another generation or two to let go of that depression thinking, but it's still here. It's still here, and it's remotivated every once in a while by glitches in the economy. It's re-stimulated every once in a while. Our work is to say, you know what? I'm not going there. I know gay people who have never been crucified in their life for being gay, but it's in the field. It's in the field. And so there are some of us who are still remaining small being gay because we want to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe. See, we've owned that memory. It's not even our memory, but we've owned it from somebody else. There are 8-year-old girls right here today who have been told that girls don't do well in math. And they're buying that. They're making that part of their identity. And when that happens, we have to work really, really hard to be able to return to a consciousness of abundance. And every time we tell an 8-year-old girl that, we run the risk of pushing back a cure to cancer, or pushing back a cure to any other disease when we tell children that they're limited, boys or girls. See, our work is to stay out of memories. In fact, what's his name? John Randolph Price, what he would say is, you know what? Memory, you don't get my identity anymore. You don't get it anymore. You know, family who try and make me small, you don't get my identity anymore. Friends who want to keep me a certain way, you don't get my identity anymore. I'm taking my identity back, and I'm doing it right now. And my identity is I am lavish abundance in this life. See, the second sentence in this says, constant activity. God is giving us constantly active, giving us abundance of everything that you want in your life. And what that means is it's a good shout out for us to keep going back to the well. See, we get into that thing where God has forsaken me. Everybody else got what they want, but I didn't get what I wanted. We have to go back to the well, because every time we go back to the well, after you do things like read this book, every time you go back to the well, you go back to the well with a different consciousness. And God is constantly and actively working with us. Okay, the fourth principle that we're at. Through my consciousness of my God self, the Christ within as my source, I draw into mind and feeling the very substance of spirit. This substance is my supply. Thus my consciousness of the presence of God within me is my supply. The key here are the first three words. In my consciousness. My consciousness. See, if Jesus could make you rich, Jesus would make you rich. If Buddha could make you rich, Buddha would make you rich. If Lao Tzu would make you rich, Lao Tzu would make you rich. If any minister in this movement could make you rich, we would make you rich. If any practitioner could make you rich, they would make you rich. But we can't. It's my consciousness, through my consciousness, that the work has to be done in our life. See, here is the thing. We have to get clear, and we have to be proud about it, and we can't be mincing around anymore. The presence of God is within you. You are God on the planet. Now, here's what. This is what separates us from other churches. You know, they say, oh, those New Thought people, they're crazy. They think they're God. They're nuts. And we have to just stand right up and say, yeah, that is what we think we are. That is. It's what we think we are. Now, we understand that we're not all of God. We can't even wrap our head around all of God, but God is all of us. And if we could begin to get that, how much better would the world be if we showed up as God? If we showed up as unconditional love everywhere we went, how much better would the world be? If we showed up with a consciousness of total self-esteem, and we knew we could walk in any room with complete strangers who looked different than us, who that we might have even heard stories about not liking us, what would it be like if we could walk in that room and know that we were loved and that we loved every single person? Is that such a bad thing? That's what God would be if we could show up in that way. What would it be if we could show up with complete and unconditional compassion for everybody, no matter what mistake they made, to us or to anybody else? What would the world be like if we could show up with respect to everybody? And that's what God does. God shows up with respect to everybody. Do you know that we could stop right now all of the police shootings of people of color? We could stop it right now if we would learn how to walk as God walks, with respect with everybody. We could stop all of the shootings of police if we could begin to learn how to walk as God walks. We cannot be afraid anymore to be clear that we are God in action. See, now what he says also is, now we have to not only get it intellectually in this, he says we have to get the feeling nature too. See, we have to drop it from our head into our heart. Because here's what happens. Sometimes we read these books and we start thinking about it and we even start acting as if. But what happens is some little piece of evidence comes by and we get drawn off because it's not in our heart. We haven't dropped it down enough. We haven't moved it from the heart, from the head to the heart, or the head to the soul, so that it's natural for us. And when that happens, we can't actually activate these principles because there's so much evidence to the contrary. So much evidence of limitation and lack. So much evidence of fear. You should be afraid of this. You should be afraid of that. And pretty soon that's exactly what happens. We're afraid of this and we're afraid of that. But when we stay with these principles long enough that they can move from our head down to our heart, we will change the world. You know, I come here every Sunday and I say, you are whole, perfect, and complete. And I know you get that in your head. But let somebody roll their eyeballs at you. Or look at a friend when you say something. And all of a sudden, you know, you're down the rabbit hole. You've gone away. We have to get it from our head and our heart. All right, the fifth principle. I better move along here. Fifth principle. Money is not my supply. No person, place, or condition is my supply. My awareness, understanding of the all-providing activity of the divine mind within me is my supply. My consciousness of this truth is unlimited. Therefore, my supply is unlimited. See, this first sentence, he helps us to understand what our supply is not. He tells us what our supply is. It's the presence. It's God. It's source. And then he helps us understand what our supply is not. It's not our job. It's, you know, it's not great Uncle Freddie who's feeling frail and you think he left you in the will. It's not your Social Security check. It's nothing. It's not any of those things. Those are simply the ways that you have invited the flow to come into your personal life. And the reason it's important to understand that the way, that God's delivery method that you have opened up and chosen is not the source is because that can turn off in a dime. You know, you can be fired from a job in a moment. You can lose this or that in a moment. You can make one bad investment and lose money in a moment. Forget about it. Learn from it and move on. Because that's not the source of your supply. Presence, God, is the source of your supply. And see, there's a little twist here. He says, look, we've got to, the awareness is what we need to be aware, we need to get clear about. The awareness, it's not abundance is the source of, abundance just is. You can't do anything, you can't get more of it, you can't get less of it. Abundance is off the table. What is on the table is our awareness of abundance and training our mind to know that awareness is where we are. Okay, let's go on to number 6, the last one. The last one is my inner supply instantly and constantly takes on form and experience according to my needs and desires. And as the principle of supply in action, it is impossible for me to have any of my desires unfulfilled. So this is how we get messed up. This is the exact place where I mess myself up, and I know I'm not the only one in this room. We think that we have a desire that we want, that we have, and we think, okay, now I get this. I get this little book. And so now I get it. God is going to meet my desire, okay? Oh, it's so good. And it is good. But we leave it to the positive desires. See, we don't fully understand that God will meet every single one of your desires, every one of your desires. If it's a strong enough desire and it comes into a belief, it's going to get fulfilled. And we need to pay attention to that because it is not just the positive container that we're building, it's also the negative container that we build. So we might have a desire. I read about a guy who had a desire for a $40,000 a year job. And God gave him a $40,000 a year job. Now be careful, I'm not talking about a God in the sky. I'm talking about that universal energy. He created the container, $40,000 a year job. He felt worthy of a $40,000 a year job. He understood what he was asking for. He got it. And he believed he could have it because he was worthy for it. He gets the job, and the guy next to him doing the exact same work is making $80,000. And now he's mad. See? And he thinks it didn't work. It worked perfectly. It worked absolutely perfectly. So we have to up-level our desires and be aware of what it is that we want and why it is that we want it. Most of you in this church know that I once bought a restaurant because I thought Georgia O'Keefe was such a cute name for a restaurant. And I was so sure it was a cute name that God went ahead and gave me that. Now, I don't know how to cook. Very little business interest in restaurants. And I lost $40,000 in about 3 months. See? Because I had that desire. We have to up-level. We have to up-level our desire. There is nothing, there is no one thing that is too big for God to give to you. No one thing. There are many, many things that we have to retrain our mind that we can receive because our basket isn't big enough. You know, I once went to the Agape Center of Truth, and it was years ago, and he was not nearly, he's about half of what he is now. Those of you know, that's Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith from The Secret. That's his church, wonderful church, Center of Truth. And I was appalled. When it came time for the baskets, you know those big laundry baskets they have? That's what they came out with. And they just pushed the laundry baskets up and down and up and down. And he said, somebody asked him about it. He says, I'm not sending any little old basket out there. And that's our work. That's our work, is to go to the ocean with a bucket. Don't go with a thimble. Go with a bucket in your life. So let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there's only one power. It's the power of love. And that power just goes through us all of the time. And so now we say, this day I open to this love, to let it flow through me. Let it flow through me as money, as friends, as experiences. Let it flow through me as beautiful trees that I stop and take notice of. Just let it flow through me as music. Whatever, just let it flow through me. I know that the presence is always with me. I give thanks for that. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.